News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Monica Ricks. We're following the latest out of South Florida, where the U.S. Secret Service killed an armed gunman who snuck into a secure perimeter of Mar-a-Lago overnight. The man's identity hasn't been released, but investigators say he'd been reported missing a few days ago in North Carolina. Agents say he'd been carrying a shotgun and a gas can when they confronted and shot him. No law enforcement was injured. President Trump was also at the White House at the time. Millions of Americans may have to wait a little longer to get through security at airports today as Homeland Security scales back its operations. TSA just posted on X saying PreCheck is still up and running, but didn't mention global entry. It is, however, pausing escorts to members of Congress to redirect staff at airports and ports as part of a partial government shutdown. Meantime, airlines plan to suspend operations at several airports in the Northeast today. More than 3,000 flights have already been delayed and another 3,000 canceled ahead of another major winter storm. Bloomberg meteorologist Rob Carolyn's tracking conditions.
Right now, it looks like we'll see 10 to 16 inches around the New York City area. There could be a little bit more over Long Island. Those amounts increase over southeastern Massachusetts. There could be some places that see in excess of 20 inches of snow. The Boston area probably looking at 12 to 18 inches of snow. Could see some gusts over 60 and 70 miles an hour, particularly over Cape Cod, over 50 miles an hour in Boston. Winds will gust over 40 miles an hour across southern coastal Connecticut, New York City, and Long Island. I'm Rob Carolyn, Bloomberg Radio.
States of emergency have been declared in New York and New Jersey, with the travel ban starting in New York City later tonight. The U.S. and Iran are set to resume talks Thursday in Geneva, extending the search for a diplomatic solution to a standoff over Tehran's nuclear program. Iran's foreign minister says he expects to meet U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff for the talks, but insists that Iran won't be pressured by a U.S. military buildup. 2 aircraft carriers, hundreds of fighter jets, and thousands of troops are now on standby in the region as President Trump presses Iran for a nuclear deal. The president said Friday he's considering limited strikes on Iran if it can't reach an agreement within the next 2 weeks. The European Union could now freeze its trade deal with the U.S. following the Supreme Court's decision this week to reject President Trump's existing duties. The European Parliament's Trade Committee is holding an emergency meeting tomorrow in response to what its trade chief calls pure customs chaos on the part of the U.S. government. Australia and India have made similar statements. In fact, Indian officials were supposed to meet in Washington this week to discuss trade, but now plan to reschedule. Meantime, the president's calling the ruling the biggest threat in history to U.S. national security, leaving the country financially defenseless. But U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer says Trump's new global tariff could build things back up.
Now it doesn't have the same flexibility that the president had under the previous authority that he was using, but it gives us very durable tools. It allows us to do investigations, implement tariffs where needed, and provides a lot of leverage and a lot of protection for American industry.
The new 15% tariff expires at the end of July, just months ahead of midterm elections. Investors may be getting skittish about AI's revenue prospects, but Bloomberg's Dan Schwartzman tells us a major player is optimistic.
ChatGPT maker OpenAI is projecting that its revenue will grow rapidly in the next few years and exceed $280 billion in 2030. That's according to a person familiar with the matter. The optimistic revenue growth reflects OpenAI's strong momentum in subscription sales for its AI software to both consumers and businesses. According to the company's CFO, annualized revenue topped $20 billion in 2025. That's up from around $6 billion the prior year. Dan Schwartzman, Bloomberg Radio.
JPMorgan Chase confirms it closed President Trump's bank accounts after the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. That's according to the New York Times, which reports the admission in a court filing in a lawsuit over allegations of political debanking. Trump suing for $5 billion, claiming the closures hurt his businesses. JPMorgan says the suit lacks merit. The CDC says measles cases keep rising, with about 1,000 cases now across 26 states, mostly affecting kids and teens. Experts say almost all of these infections involve people who are unvaccinated. And one last gold for Team USA to wrap up the Winter Olympics in Italy. The U.S. beat Canada 2-1 in overtime to win its first men's hockey championship at the Olympics since 1980. Team USA ends the games with 33 medals now, including 12 gold. And that's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Monica Ricks, and this is Bloomberg.